Builder back at it today. I've got Matt King. And this guy has seen football from every possible angle. A four-sport kid out of Massachusetts, walked on University of Maine as a D1 linebacker, became an All-American. Then he chased the NFL dream through three different leagues. Indoor arena ball, the CFL up in Canada, camps with the Jets and the Steelers. He was with the Georgia Force, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, the Manchester Wolves. If there was a field to play on, Matt found it. When the playing was done, he spent the next 14 years building college weight rooms, turning boys into men one rep at a time, and today he's made it all the way to the league. He's coaching in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. Big shout out to our guy, Shelton Bynum, for connecting us. He's out of Colorado State, had him on the show. Today we get into the process over the outcome, what 14 years in the weight room teaches you about developing people, and what it actually takes to chase a dream across three different leagues and never quit on it. Matt, welcome to the show. Matt, before we get into all the fun stuff, your welcome to college moment, a four-sport kid from Massachusetts walking in as a D1 linebacker in the room at Maine. When did it hit you that this was a different level?
Man, I would say, first off, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate Bynum connecting us, and I'm looking forward to chatting a little bit today and you guys learning a little bit more about my story and more importantly about my experiences and how it's kind of shaped where I'm at today and the athletes I've helped along the way. But the moment where I got to Maine and it was like, man, it's welcome to college football or welcome to the real world moment was probably like literally my first fall camp. Was back then it was you had rookie camp, so to say, or freshman camp. We had a report a week earlier than the vets when we going through 2 days, 3 days, a whole week's worth before the vets show up, and then the vets come in, the older guys, and then it's you're still on that same schedule, 2-3 practices a day, and you're in full pads, and it's the installs, like how much stuff gets thrown at you. And in terms of how long your day is too, like there really wasn't a time where to catch your breath, so to say. So it's like it was swimming. I was swimming that first camp with the amount of information I was throwing at me because I didn't realize how much really went into studying the game and whatnot. And I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of great players that like older guys that on that team, that 2002 team that helped me out in terms of learning how to study, how to become a student of the game, and more importantly, how to take care of your body. And it was definitely a process. But at the end of the day, that's where I started to learn about you got to focus on the process, not the outcome. And the process will take you to what the outcome you want. It's all driven in the process.
You played in some strange rooms. You're at Jets camp. You're at Steelers camp. I wrote down the Georgia Force and the Hamilton Tiger Cats,
Mm-hmm.
Manchester Wolves. Is there ever a, hey man, what league am I even in at this moment kind of thought? Like,
Yeah, no,
shoot,
it's one of those things where it's funny because you go from playing the outdoor game and then you go play indoor, and then I went back outdoors, but I went on basically a soccer field and you go up to Canada. Football is still football at the end of the day, but honestly, it really made me understand the game better and understand that there are different strong suits to every avenue of football. So to say, the indoor game it's football, but it's different. It's literally like playing football on a hockey rink. And then the outdoor game up in Canada was basically like you got an extra guy on defense, an extra guy on offense. You got less, it's 3 downs, and then you got a yard off the ball. The end zones are bigger. It's literally the best athletes. Honestly, there's some guys that I met when I played up there that honestly don't translate well to the American game, but were amazing. All league guys up there and spent their entire careers up there. And there's guys that came from the NFL and would go up there and couldn't make it because it was like it's a totally different game. And then in the NFL, it's one of those things where it's like you're with the best of the best. So at the end of the day, the NFL is probably the most business in terms of you see the business side of it. In Canada and Arena League, there's a business side of it. Guys still get cut, traded, all that stuff. But in the league, it's really more business oriented because it's obviously that's where everybody's goal is to get to, and the amount of money that's poured into it that goes into it as well. So it's like if you're not getting it done, they're gonna find somebody that's gonna get it done. But it's also in turn, it creates for an environment where you get the best of people at this level. I would say they all have their caveats, so to say, but don't get me wrong, like I had a great time, honestly, in terms of playing wise. Like in Canada, the game is as a defensive lineman, in terms of rushing the passer, is great because it's 90% pass. They got to get yardage on first down because they only got 3 downs to get a first down, so to say. So it's like you in terms of tendencies, the thought process is a lot different. And then when you play in the arena game, you got a smaller roster. So like there's only 20 to 25 guys on the team. You guys live together, you eat together, all that stuff, travel. But since it's only 20 to 25 guys, that means a lot of guys is playing both ways. So I got the opportunity to play on offense when I was playing in Arena League 2 as well. Played fullbacks, linebacker, defensive end. And it's one of those things where it's like you don't really come off the field in the arena game. So yeah, they all had their own little intricacies that like I feel like I played my strong suits too, but definitely it's one of those things where it's different. Like you can't say that a guy that has success in the NFL is going to have success in Canada, and vice versa. You can't say a guy that has success in Canada is going to translate directly to the NFL or the arena leagues, but depending on the position.
Gotcha. Boy, it's a lot to take in. And one thing you have to be as versatile as any kind of athlete, and might make you change positions, but changing leagues, even that same position requires a lot of versatility. So now it's 2026, it's first day inside an NFL building as a coach. 19 years after your first NFL camp as a player, right at the bat, what surprised you and what did the 24-year-old whatever version of you get wrong about the building?
All right, so as a 43-year-old now, just turned 43 today, as a matter of fact, but as a
Happy birthday.
43-year-old now, appreciate it, man. As a 43-year-old now, and looking back at my 24-year-old self, man, the game has changed. More, it's not the game hasn't changed that much. It's more like how the rules and regulations. Man, I was literally just telling guys today, mini camp used to be really mini camp. It's like you put pads on and you're going at it with guys. Whereas now it's like everything is the player health and safety. It's a good thing. It's gotten better over the years, right? So we're not doing the same things we did 20 years ago. And in turn, guys, we're taking care of guys a lot better, whether it's in the weight room or in the training room wise, performance wise. We're taking care of the guys because the time on feet is a lot less. I feel like the amount of time spent in the building is a lot less as well. There's rules like regulations with that. With the players CBA, they can only be in the building for so many hours. You can only have them in meetings for so many hours. You can only have them workouts for so many hours. Those have been cut down over the years. And in turn, player health and safety, I would feel like has definitely improved. It's like one of those things where over the years, you see the changes that have been made along that side of things, and then you see why guys' careers are lasting longer and performance-wise, guys running the speeds they're running, and you in terms of the athletes now, you got some guys that are hyper athletic, so to say. I feel like when I played, I would say it was like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? You had guys that it was more of a physical game, like because you had in terms of it's still physical, don't get me wrong, but it was more of literally like a street fight every play. Whereas now it's more spread out and it's like basketball on grass, so to say. So guys are able to achieve faster speeds, and more importantly, the game is changed in terms of everything's more spread out instead of just you're not running the ball downhill every play, and it's more let's spread out, let's throw the ball around, let's get our best athletes out on the field and not just the strongest guys, so to say.
So we had these Thieneman brothers on, and they played at Purdue, and their brother played at Purdue, and the third one was just drafted in the first round, and he got drafted, but the other two did not. So I want to ask you this question. So Jake, one of the guys that wasn't drafted, he got a camp look with the Giants, and he walked in there thinking he is as prepared as he could be. Like he's been all in and dialed in. He's been tracking his food. He does all the extra food. He goes, I'm capable. And I got some awards. And he goes, I'm playing the best I've ever played, the best ever. And I'm on the field and I see Saquon Barkley do some things. And I thought, he said, if I had 10 more years of improvement, I'm never going to be at that dude's level. So then I look at you and I see All American, right? 11 and a half sacks one
Yeah.
year. Not weak numbers, not like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not one of the dudes.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between production and opportunity. And so that razor thin margin, talk about how, man, you could be great and man, somehow
For sure.
not good enough, and how you got to rectify that because it's got to be tied to your identity. You've been playing football since you could probably walk with a football, right? Playing
Yep.
lots of other sports, and all of a
Yep.
sudden you're like, you know what? You're just not good enough to keep going.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'd be like, I've been told I'm not good enough. I've been fired from a job
Yep.
before.
Yep.
And you're like, fuck, that hurts.
Yep. Yep. But
So
I will say,
talk
yeah,
about
I'll
this
talk
and how,
about
like,
this. So like,
because you got decades of persistence to get back to the league. Talk about that just at a high level, right?
yeah. So the first experience being cut, New York Jets, right? Got cut literally like right after mini camp, like my first mini camp. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, where did I go wrong? And then at the time, I'm like, did my agent send me to the wrong spot? Or what did I do wrong? And then is one of those things where like you're literally like there's guys that get drafted, right? And then there's guys that are undrafted free agents. And the guys that get drafted, they can make more mistakes, right? Because there's more money tied to them. And that's
Sure.
where I started to understand the business side of it. And it's not is one of those things where if somebody's investing something, they want to get return on investment. So they're given you get some more time or maybe more mistakes to make, so to say, than somebody that really doesn't have that much invested in them. So those guys, in the biggest thing is like those guys that are undrafted, usually those guys are the guys with a chip on their shoulder. So in terms of getting back, then getting my opportunity to go to Pittsburgh and then seeing that room out there playing with some great guys, like guys that when I got into that room in 2007, it was a lot veteran-laden room. Like you had guys that have been in the league for 5 to 10 years at that point, right? So me being a 24-year-old rookie, I was just trying to be a fly on the wall and try to learn as much as I could, right? And in turn, when you get cut, released, signed again, told that they're gonna put you on practice squad for a couple weeks, whatever. When you go through those moments, it sets you up for life because there's been times where I've been let go from jobs, and it's one of those things where how you gonna deal with it, right? Adversity, it's gonna come for all of us at some point. And as an athlete or as a coach or as a grown man, you're gonna face adversity all through your life, right? And it's like, how are you gonna deal with those moments when you're told you're not good enough or when you're told we want to go in a different direction? It may be nothing that you did wrong. It just may be the luck of the draw, but it's more so like, all right, can you pick yourself up and put together and find a way to put together yourself to be able to move on and get signed to another roster or get another job? And it's not, at the end of the day, I feel like I don't want nothing that's easy to me. I wouldn't want to be given, feel like anybody just gave me something and I didn't get to work for it. At the end of the day, I've always had to take the hard road, so to say. And that goes back to where growing up wasn't honestly my sisters was probably better athletes than me. I always joke around as both my sisters ran track and they probably were better athletes. Back in the day, we had the Presidential Physical Fitness Award
Oh, yeah.
in elementary school, and
I
both of
hated
my sisters.
I hated that thing.
Yeah, and both of my sisters got it like all through elementary school. I think I got it 1 year in sixth grade. But it's just one of those things where it's like I've always been like a late bloomer. I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna keep working, being persistent, and then just focus on the process. And then at the end of the day, I've always been a process-driven person. I'm not. It's never been like easy for me to do things. It's kind of like this has kind of been my story my whole life, and I've kind of just grown with it. And the fact that I'm able to get back to the NFL, so to say, now as a coach has been great because kind of been able to see it full circle and then also just been more appreciative of it because it wasn't like I went straight from playing into coaching at this level, so to say.
The last short little period, year and a half, you move Lauren and the kids down to Texas, right? And then you got to come home one day and say, Lauren, I got a phone call. It's from my guy over in the Cardinals. They want to talk to me about a strength and conditioning job within the NFL. So on one hand, you're going to get Lauren's one face. On the other hand, you're going to get a different face.
For
And
sure.
then because I'm sure they didn't call right off the bat and say, hey, we want you in the NFL. They're going to have to talk to you at least once or twice. Make sure you're a good fit. So then that call comes and says, hey, man, we want you. Here's the price tag. And you're like, all right, we're going.
Sure.
So then you got to walk back in the room and, hey, Lauren, they called. And she's going to see the smile on your face because now it's the league calling, right? And Texas is great. You can't tell me you're not going to have an awesome time at Texas. All the resources they have there, it's outstanding.
For sure.
But
And
it
that was
a toll on the family, it does, right? And
100%.
if you don't have teammates, is teamwork is one of the core values we talk about. And people think of teamwork as where it's only the people on the field, and that's total bullshit. Without that support at home, right? Like it's a whole different problem. And if she says,
Yes.
"Hey man, why don't you move to Arizona for a year? I'll stay here with the kids and see how that goes out," right? That's a whole different dynamic, and that people do that. Like that shit happens. You could be a consultant for McKenzie out in Boston and travel all week, then come home on weekends. So that's a lifestyle.
Mm.
Talk about the teamwork component. This is your chance to praise Lauren live online.
Yeah, for sure.
So we could put it out there that how sweet
For
your
sure.
wife is.
Yeah,
So this
nah,
is your
she's amazing. She's a rock star. Like how do I say this, man? Like because at the end of the day, man, I wouldn't be able to make the moves I've made and be able to do the things that I do on a daily basis if it wasn't for her. She does an outstanding job of one, still balancing her career as a nurse and then taking care of our children, and having to go through these moves, man. Like, so let me tell you this. So she never even ended up moving to Texas. What happened was she stayed back in Michigan when I took the Texas job. And she was like, look, I'm not moving until you know for sure that you're going to be at Texas. And basically, I ended up getting a call to come out here to Arizona right before we started spring ball at Texas. And it was one of those things where we had already planned on moving to Texas, but she was still back in Michigan. So had to call the moving truck and tell the movers, hey, we're gonna have to reroute that truck, man. I know it's headed
Bro,
down to Austin. You're gonna have to shoot 10 West and head out to Phoenix. So
dang.
that's literally how that went down. So we sold the house in Michigan, and then the moving truck got a phone call from me after I accepted this. So that was the second. So I accepted the job from the Cardinals. The second call was, hey, the moving truck, hey, can you guys not drop in Texas and drop in Arizona? Yeah, we can hold your stuff for 2 weeks or whatever. I'm like, all right. So look, Lauren, we got to find somewhere to live in Phoenix over the next 2 weeks. And then also coming out when I took the job in Michigan State, like she had never left really the state of Connecticut. She's from Connecticut, and we met when I was at UConn, and that was definitely a big move for her. But she's like, look, this is what I signed up for, and I'm excited because at the end of the day, this is an adventure, and I'm glad I just get to share it with you. And I said the same thing to her. This is an adventure, and we're gonna do this thing as long as we can. It's hard on the kids too as well. My 5-year-old, she's been to 4 different schools or 5 different schools in 3 different states or whatever. So, and she's only 5 years old. At some point, it's like, all right, when the kids get to like middle school, high school age, wherever we're at, we're just going to have to stay put because at the end of the day, my stepdaughter, my 17-year-old, she stayed back in Michigan. So she didn't make the move with us to Arizona because she's in high school. I get it. Like I was like, finish up high school in Michigan because she made the move already from Connecticut to Michigan. I was like, I didn't want to have to move again her senior year to come out here,
Got it.
especially the second semester of her senior year. So she stayed in Michigan, finished high school. But yeah, the younger ones that we got, like, man, we're going to make sure that wherever we're at, we're going to have to stay put because it's going to be hard to move around once they get to that age. And it's, like I said, it's one of those things where I didn't get to experience it as a kid. I went to the same high school. We moved around a little bit when I was younger, but in the state of Massachusetts, in Boston, so to say, and then we ended up going to high school in Stoughton. But it's one of those things where you don't realize, okay, like when you're making these moves, it's not just me that that's affecting. I have to tell people all the time when people call me about opportunities, whatnot, it's like, all right, man, let me talk this over with my wife because at the end of the day, if she's not down with it, it's not going to work because we got to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the decision. This is a team effort, and I always tell her, I say, "Yo, you the point guard. I'm just I'm just part of the team.
Nice.
You lead the squad."
All right, so training athletes. You got NFL vets, late 20s, 30s,
Yep.
some maybe late. Those are dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And you had 18-year-old freshmen in college camp.
Yep.
What's different between the years? What do the pros protect that the college kids waste?
Yeah. Now the biggest thing is honestly just at the guys when you get to this level. Everybody has a process and they follow that process and you got to respect that process because it's got them to where they're at right now. In college, a lot of guys don't have a process, don't even understand what a process is, don't understand having a routine, so to say, and they're kind of like still trying to learn how to be a man, so to say. Whereas at this level, most of the guys have their own families at this point. They've got established careers. They've got established businesses. At the end of the day, they come to work like this is the workplace. Whereas in college, you still got guys that, how do I say it, still trying to figure it out, so to say. And what's scary about it now is like, college is becoming more like the NFL in terms of the amount of money that gets thrown around. But the problem is they're at an age where it's scary because they're at an age where they're getting massive amounts of money, but they're in terms of the mindset, it's not there where these guys are at, where they understand this is their job, so to say. You know what I mean? In college, it's like, oh yeah, it's still, yeah, let's have fun with the guys and not really take care of myself. And then they're still going to pay me. And it's like, nope, that college guys are getting, that's why you got guys going to the transfer portal. Guys get cut. Guys get told, hey man, back in the day, my scholarship was, yeah, it was on a year-to-year renewal, but the majority of the guys that I came out with, you had guys that didn't make it because of academics or they got in trouble or whatnot. But then if you wanted to stay all 5 years, you could stay all 4 or 5 years. Whereas now, it's not the same. If you're not good enough, they're going to find somebody that's better than you. So it's like, are, especially because they're paying you money in college. So it's like now the game has changed that way where it is similar to the NFL. I would say the NFL is further along because of the rules with the CBA. Guys, we don't have as much time, so to say, with them as you do in college. College got more, it's more hands-on. In the NFL, the schedule is, it's more, guys have more time on their own, so to say, and guys have, and it's a good thing because guys got families and you got other avenues that they're other business stuff they're doing outside of here, and what they want to be able to pursue that. But I would say in college, you guys are getting paid now, just like they do in the league, but there's not a lot of rules and regulations to it like there is in the
Sure.
NFL.
Structure helps out a lot. The
Yeah.
discipline equals freedom is what Jocko always says. And
Yes.
you and I know that the brain doesn't really fully develop until age 25. So now you got 18 to 25-year-olds making money. And the NFL was in the same position decades ago, and they recognized that. So they put a lot of structure in place saying, hey, you got to take this class on how does money work?
Hmm.
How does finances work? How do
Hmm.
investments work? Now there's
Hmm.
no structure at all in the NIL world with the college athletes. So they're getting paid and they're not as mature and they have the freedom. And now they got guys wanting to go out and party and travel here and girls throwing
Yep.
themselves at
Yep.
them, just like they do in the NFL. But the guys in the NFL are a little bit more mature, a little bit older, and have more structure. So that's going to be a huge thing. And I don't know anyone that's trying to be great that does it really well without some significant process. And it's
For
not
sure.
just one; it's a dozen different processes for a dozen different things. And looking at your background, I see all the letters, the whole alphabet soup after your name. And I know the CSCS is pretty tough. USAW weightlifting, it's okay. You go take a weekend class and all, but USA track and field, then precision nutrition and FRC. So there's the element. Like even if you're a driven, disciplined person, there's still the knowledge of your sport and what it takes to be great, and you got to build your brain that way. So in the athlete builder world, our scorecard, our assessment test, when I'm scoring people, I end up scoring knowledge double because if you're stupid, you don't get very far. So what do you tell a 15-year-old when you're coaching in college things about their game and why building that own personal playbook? How do you go about teaching them that, hey man, you got to be smarter at football and have that football IQ to do well? You can't just be really fast or be really strong anymore.
For
How do you build them up like that?
For sure. I was like talk about the story. Guy that I grew up with, Lofa Tatubu, who played in the NFL for a long time with the Seahawks, and is a great friend of mine. We grew up together. Lofa will tell you, he's like, man, like I wasn't the strongest or the fastest guy in the field, but like my mindset in terms of like understanding the game and just becoming a student of the game, I feel like that's what pushed him to where he got in his career. And at the end of the day, like I feel like that's the secret sauce. Like in terms of when I see guys that are like all pro guys and how they operate. But yeah, they're great, amazing athletes. But like really what the secret sauce is when the game slows down for them and it's not coming at you a million miles an hour and they can understand concepts and they can just become more of a student, study the craft, and then also be able to coach it back to their teammates, guys that are on the field that are like, call them like field generals. They understand like where they're supposed to be, where everybody else is supposed to be at all times. And I feel like when you're the earlier you can learn that, and it helped with him, like, cause he played quarterback in high school, and it was a thing that we actually had. He played at Maine before he transferred to USC, but at Maine we used to do it all the time. Stephen Cooper, another dude I played with, played NFL for the Chargers for a long time as well. Coop was a quarterback in high school and then was a linebacker at Maine and then played linebacker for the Chargers for a long time, but had that quarterback mindset. So like he's one of the smartest dudes I've ever been around in terms of like understanding the game, concepts, where's he supposed to be. Crazy good athlete, but more importantly, understood the game and knew exactly where he was supposed to be, when he was supposed to be, and knew what everybody else was supposed to do too as well. He was a guy that like he could call out the play before the play was even started. Those type of guys, the earlier you can become somebody like that, where you become a master at your craft, the earlier you start at that, the better you're gonna be.
Yep. Over a half century ago, Bill Bowerman, the legendary track coach at Oregon, ended up being a consultant with Phil Knight, and Phil Knight created Nike. So they're both out there in Oregon, and they're coaching. Bowerman's coaching Olympians, title winners. He has Steve Prefontaine, a distance runner, if you've seen Without Limits, and he tells all the athletes then, on their first practice, he invites them to become students of their sport. And that means that if you're running, it's not just that. What do you really need to lift? How much do you need to lift? And if you're running against these other folks, what can they do? What is their kick like? What is their start right like? Because all those components matter. And not only that, what if you're running out there in the heat in Arizona, or what if you're running out in Seattle and there's a lot of rain, right? There's all those components. So those when I was coaching these kids to keep a journal of the different venues, when you're at this venue and the sun's setting over here, what's that do? Do you need to wear a visor or not? So you're absolutely right. The more you pour that knowledge into your head, you can easily give yourself an enormous advantage. On the
100%.
team on the teammate side, I look at 11 and a half sacks. So sometimes you're getting double teamed, sometimes someone else is, right? Sometimes someone's setting the edge, someone else is maybe lined up correctly, maybe someone's not lined up correctly, which impacts everything. Who helped make your production possible? And then how do you go about teaching other athletes, "Hey, man, I got a sack there, but you were every bit of a part of that." You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Because
I'm gonna shout out a guy right off the bat, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to get the production that I had my senior year and the years before that too as well. But Mike DeVito, who I played with, played D tackle in the NFL for a long time, was with the Jets, was with the Chiefs. He was a guy who, how do I say this? Vito. So we both from Massachusetts. We came in the same freshman class. One of the nicest guys you ever meet. On the field was a dog, like nobody could block him. Big weight room guy, like we used to get after it in the weight room. But more importantly, just a great person, great human being. He's back at Maine working now. And when he was on the field, I knew that it was going to take at least 2-3 people to block him. And if they was going to double team, triple team him, then I was going to eat. And vice versa. If they was going to double team, triple team me, then he was going to eat. So we kind of fed off each other in that regard. And a lot of my production is due to him 100%. And then on the back end, another guy I played with, Darren Stone, played safety at the University of Maine with me as well. And like, we had also to spend time with the Falcons and the Ravens in the NFL before playing in CFL. But like D Stone, man, he was a guy where on the back end, like you had to account for him at all times. And it was Liam Cohen, who we played against in college. He's coach for the Jaguars now. He'll be able to tell you, like, D Stone, he had trouble trying to find him, and he had to always account for wherever D Stone was at in the field, because he knew that he was either if he was going to come on off the edge or he was going to be in the back end. He was a ball hawk. But those guys, I would say, helped me in terms of being able to achieve the stats that I had. Like, it's not it's at the end of the day, like, I'm only as good as the guys that I'm around. So if somebody's going to double team, triple team DeVito, then I'm going to eat. Vice versa, like they're going to triple team me, then he was going to eat. Like, we all kind of fed off each other. And in turn, we pushed each other that way too, where if somebody wasn't pulling their weight, like best believe we was going to let people know that, hey man, step it up. Like, you're messing up, and we got to make sure that we kept each other in line that way as well, where there was no man that was like bigger than the team, so to say. Like, those guys that I played with those 4 or 5 years I was up in Maine, like we all came from, we knew at the end of the day, like we were all humble guys, but we also understood like our assignment and knew that like nothing to us was ever like easy. Like, we always had, you're in Maine, you're the other end of the world, basically. We used to call it the land of the misfit toys. Everybody had a story how they ended up there. And honestly, like, those are some of the toughest guys that I've ever played with.
I always tell people that confidence comes from reps. So you have more reps at squatting 135, you're not worried about it any longer. Same thing on the field with coaches. When they realize that the running back never fumbles, then the coach is going to have some confidence in that player. When you see that your D tackle is taken up, causing all sorts of problems, and you know the safety behind you has you covered, you got to have the confidence then from seeing those reps that you can play as fast as possible. You can take some more risk. If someone else is newer on the field and you're worried about them messing up, you can't take as much risk because you got to actually cover for him a little bit because he could be out of position, which then impacts you. So the whole teamwork component, like when they say you're only as strong as your weakest link, yeah, it sounds like a nice phrase for a bumper sticker, but it's still the absolute truth. Now, getting into the lifting world, which is what you do, and I love it, and one of the things I absolutely love, 14 years, 7 programs, 5 different
Yeah.
conference footprints. What do you think? What have you observed that's been evolving and changing in the strength and conditioning world?
Yeah. Now, the biggest thing that hasn't changed is we're still moving equipment. We're still moving dumbbells and barbells and kettlebells, and there's still like we're still working, doing resistance training. That's never going to change. But the biggest thing is in terms of the technology, the resources that are available. Staff size has grown. You got people that specialize in things now, where the staffs are kind of balloon now. You got just a team that used to have one or two strength coaches got 4 or 5, 6 strength coaches now. And then you got a guy that's a data guy, and you got a guy that's a return to play guy, and you got a guy that's, there's kind of like these niche areas where you can pursue. And then also there's people that on the college side, you used to be like you had a football strength coach that kind of oversaw all the sports, whereas now like football is kind of separated on the college side, and then you got your director of basketball, and then you may have a baseball guy, you may have a soccer guy, whatever. But it's every sport kind of has their own coach now, so to say. And it just shows like in terms of the value of a strength coach, it's definitely gone through the roof. And then also you see it on the high school side, like that's the biggest, in my opinion, like where we can make the biggest jump. That's where I've seen, and that's also where I've seen like in terms of athletes being ready for college. When I was at Texas, all those guys, the majority of the guys in the roster come from Texas high schools, high schools in the state of Texas. So a lot of those high schools have their own strength coaches. The majority of them do. So they come in and I'm like, man, this dude's training age is already higher than when I was working at Michigan State. Like a lot of guys come from up north or like the East Coast, where like you may not have high schools that have a full-time strength coach. So we're doing them a lot more teaching and understanding like basically the basics, so to say. Whereas like in Texas, man, you could do some exotic stuff because you had guys that were kind of, their training age was further through the roof. So in terms of how I've seen the field evolve, like the amount of, I would say, strength coaches at the high school level has definitely benefited colleges. And then in terms of college side, I've seen in terms of the technology, and then also in terms of the collaboration with like whole performance departments, where you got a dietitian, you got your athletic training staff, you got your mental health staff, and then all of us collaborating. That's where like I've seen like the biggest thing, the biggest change on the college side, where like there's more collaboration, I would say. And then on the NFL side, the biggest thing is honestly is the staffs have grown. And then more importantly, we've been able to get more guys in the building training with us, as opposed to like being away training and then coming back and, so to say, getting and using training camp to get in shape, so to say.
Sure, sure. You're right about the specialists, and once you have more resources, you can get more people on the team that are smarter in certain areas. I did coach sports performance, strength conditioning, but also CrossFit. And if someone had to categorize me right now, I would say I'm mental performance coach, but also the quarterback for the person's overall training, because I'm looking at their mindset, knowledge of their sport, and how they are as a teammate, but also their training, nutrition, and recovery. And I'm looking for weaknesses and strengths in all areas and pointing it out so they're not just one dimensional. So I want to get in this one area. So before the college run, you spent 7 years private sector, sports performance, you're at Velocity in Premier, you're training youth and high school athletes. What separates a great facility from an average one, and what are parents actually paying for?
Sure.
Those are
I would say
two
the
two
biggest
questions.
thing, yeah, no, the biggest thing that separates a great facility from an average facility, right? So being from Massachusetts, got the opportunity to train when I was in high school. My sister and I, we at different times got an opportunity to train both at Mike Boyle's facility in Boston. And he had two facilities at the time. He had one in Canton and one in, I want to say, Winchester. But we had an opportunity to train there. And so like in terms of like my training age and like understanding like how things work in the private side of things, I got to see it at a high level, fortunately. And then my when I was working on the private side, tried to mimic a lot of the stuff that I learned from back when I was younger, training at his facility. And also more importantly, like understanding you gotta, and the private side is like it's more sales driven, as in you're trying to make sure that like you're still making sure that the athlete is their experience, their experience is good, and the parents feel like they're getting their money's worth. But it's more so sales driven, because you've got quotas to meet in terms of like sales every month, and then whether it's memberships or training packages, whatnot. And then also you don't get the opportunity to be with them. The difference between working on the private side and working in college or a pro setting or a high school setting is like you don't get to touch them on a daily basis. Like it's based on whatever times they can come in. So I feel like what makes the good facility stand out from the bad facilities is the ones that like honestly are able to see the athletes on a year round basis, and then more importantly, be able to, it's not a one-off thing where like they go once a week or they go once a month. Like they're going in and they're going to these facilities like 2-3 times a week over a whole year, where like they're getting concurrent training where it's all the way through, as opposed to, yeah, I did 2 sessions over at such and such performance facility, and then I don't have the money to keep going, or I'm not going to keep going. It's one of those things where when the successful facilities have the athletes like nonstop, they're always flowing. They always got traffic coming through the door, whether it's team training, small group training, or one-on-one training. They always got athletes coming through the door. And I feel like when you have your staff is a diverse staff where like you got people that have worked with different sports, it helps in terms of getting the majority of the athletes in the door. And then what was your second question?
So what are the parents actually really paying for, you think?
Oh yeah, so the parent, what are they paying for? So the parent, that's another thing. The parents, a lot of times, it's when they're younger. It's not like sometimes I felt like it was like a babysitting service, but it shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, when you're training. At the end of the day, like when you're training a younger athlete, like I trained kids as young as I think we started at 7 years old when I was on the private side of Velocity, and that youth group was like 7 to 10 year olds, whatnot. Like those guys were 7 to 12. Those guys and girls, they're still trying to figure it out. So it's like, all right, like,
Yeah.
can we just at the end of the day, like I just want them to, one, be able to learn how to move their body and have fun doing it. Because who's to say they're going to turn into an Olympian or whatever? I just want to make sure that they're having fun doing it. And a lot of times it's the parents like, I want to get my kid an edge. I want them to start training early. And I'm like, do they want to train? At the end of the day, yeah, the parents may want it, but does the kid actually want it as bad as the parent wants it? And then if they do, then cool. That's when you start to see some stuff. But like when they don't want it, that's when you start to be like, all right, and this is literally just babysitting.
Yeah. The younger kids, they're there having fun, hopefully, move correctly. As they get a little older, like 10 to 14, it almost doesn't even matter what program you could do.
Nah,
You
it
could do
doesn't.
muscle and fitness, men's
Yep.
health, conjugate. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
If they move any weight or their body weight, they're going to get better.
For sure.
Once they're in high school, everyone squats, people push sleds. They can help you with your start position or your
Yep.
5-10-5. So one of the things when I work with these facilities that are trying to build people to play at varsity in high school or in college, I say what you just said, in that if you can keep a hook in them year round, having them just lifting year round is going to increase their durability. They could still get injured, but their chances are less because they're getting stronger. And if you can send them home with stuff, hey man, here's Jim's top 10 things just to sleep better. Just do this and report back to me next week. Or here's some basics on food. Or while you're there, I played a sport. Here's how I approach some film study. And you just say, hey man, whatever everyone's doing, actually add an extra 20%, whatever. So at that little level, if you start getting them to do those things outside of just squatting and power clean, then you have another hook in them. Like, shoot, man, every time I talk to Matt or Jim, I'm getting better in all these different areas, not just in the basics. And then you see that kid, he has all these tools now because he's addressing all his weaknesses.
For
So
sure.
when a rookie walks into your weight room, or a freshman back at Texas or Michigan State, and you can only fix one thing, how do you go about determining what's holding them back physically? What's your assessment test? Or I understand functional movement screen. Can they move
Hmm.
correctly? Can
Hmm.
they move correctly? But when my son Jack played at Ball State, Carson Steele walks in as a freshman who made it into the league. And on day one, Carson squatted 500 for 10 as an 18-year-old. So you know that the raw strength is going to be there, right? You see that number 500 for 10, geez, oh Pete, man, that's
Hmm.
a number, right? So when you see these young kids, but a freshman or a rookie, how do you go about determining their physical limiting factor and fix
For
it?
sure. Now, the biggest thing is making sure, figure out their goals. Sit down and first and foremost, all right, man, like what's your training age? What's your background? Like, where do you want to go? Like from here. So I can't plan nothing if I don't know like where somebody wants to go, like like what they want to get out of it, right? Figure out like where they want to go, what their goals are, and what their background is, like training wise, because everybody comes from, some guys like never ever touched the weight. And some guys, like you said, Carson Steele come in squatting 5'10", right? So it's like everybody's got different backgrounds, and it's like more so like meeting them where they're at, so to say, and then going from there. I feel like the one big thing that I try to do is make sure that in terms of how I approach my athletes is like, all right, it's on a needs-based approach where I'm not just, it's not a cookie cutter approach where, all right, man, like this guy's doing this, so I need you to do this. No, at the end of the day, I feel like at the NFL, that's where you see it the most. This definitely not cookie cutter here because you got guys that have been in the league for 10, 12 years and they've got their routine and their process. And it's like, all right, we got to make sure that like, these are the qualities that I want to hit. What is important to you? And then in turn, how can we achieve this goal working together and unison? Because, and then it goes back to the college side too. Like you said, like when guys come in, all right, these are the goals that I got for you. What are your goals? And in turn, how can we do this together? This is the way that I'm planning about going about it. And then in turn, do you have ideas? Because I feel like when you let the athlete give not feedback, but give recommendations in terms of what has worked for them in the past. They're like, oh shoot, I feel like they're more bought in because okay, this dude wants to actually listen to me. It's not just his way or the highway, so to say.
Beautiful, beautiful. So at the end of the day, you got these kids that you impact. You talk about other coaches that have impacted you. And you got to come home. There's Lauren, right? But then there's also Scarlett and Kalia and Caden. What do you want? And now they get to see their daddy on NFL Sundays, right? So 20 years from now, what do you want those athletes and those kids to say and remember about you?
For sure. Man, I would say the biggest thing is nobody's going to remember what you did in terms of your accolades, or whether you got a strength coach award or I got an award playing, but people are going to remember how you made them feel. And that's first and foremost. At 20 years from now, I just want my athletes to know that at the end of the day, they got a smile on their face. Like when my name is mentioned, it's like, you know what, man, you took care of me. That's the biggest thing. And I feel like that can be the biggest compliment is that you took care of your athletes and you made sure you put them in the best position possible to be successful. And you pushed them. You didn't coddle them. You pushed them to be better people, men and women. And then in turn, you push them to become better men. Then they become better fathers, better husbands, better wives, better. That's the biggest compliment is nobody's going to remember what you did, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. And it's like, do you want to leave it where you made them feel good about training and they made them feel good about taking care of their bodies in the process? And more importantly, did they feel good about coming in and working with you every day?
Yep. Beautiful. When you're in the weight room and you're lifting, what do you like to listen to?
Man, I'm all over the place, man. I'm an old school hip hop guy, man. I'm a big old school hip hop guy, like early 90s hip hop. I'm a Mobb Deep, Tribe Called Quest, Nas, especially being from the East Coast. I'm an East Coast guy, but then also I like to listen to some of my down south stuff because a lot of my teammates from down south. But I'm a 90s hip hop guy for sure, through and through, man. That's what I was kind of brought up on, raised on, and it's kind of got me through my life, so to say.
You've been to a number of stadiums. You played in a number of stadiums. Now you're going to play in some others, or you're going to be in some others with the pros. What's a venue where you're like, oh man, holy shit, this game, the crowd was nuts. And with game day and
Yeah,
100,000 people crowds and
yeah,
night games with all the booze, right?
yeah.
So what's a stadium or a place where you're like, oh, Jim, you should have seen this one game.
For sure. Nah, it's got to be one of the college stadiums I've been in. Honestly, like the NFL stadiums is cool. Some of the stadiums I've been in, but like NFL stadiums are more, they don't seat as many people because there's actual seats in the stadium, right? So like they can get loud, but it's still only 70,000, maybe 80,000 people. Whereas in college, you can have 110. We at Tennessee, we had 100,000 people in the stadium. At Michigan, 100,000 people in the stadium. Nebraska, 90,000 people in the stadium. Honestly, man, the craziest thing, you're probably going to look at me crazy, but one of the loudest stadiums I've ever played in is one of the smallest stadiums that I was ever in. I played at Nebraska when I was in college. We played at Boston College. We played in big stadiums, but the loudest stadium was actually an FCS stadium when we was at the University of Montana. So like Montana, and then what was I gonna say? Yeah, University of Montana. Because Montana, the way it's built, it's in like the stadium is built into the side of a mountain, so to say. And we went out there and played them. I think this was 2004, I want to say. Yeah, because we played them at Maine in 2003. So it was like season opener, I think, in 2004. We flew out there to Missoula and played. And it's 25,000 people, but it was the loudest 25,000 people I think I've ever heard in my life. Just
That's
because, like,
awesome.
that's all they got out there is Montana football. And then the way the stadium is set up, the stands literally between the sideline and the bleachers, there's literally probably, I don't know, 5 yards, if that. So, like, coaches is trying to give corrections to you on the sideline, and you got people leaning over you, pouring stuff in your head, and obviously it's at altitude too, so it's hard to breathe out there. But yeah, Missoula, Montana, man, like one of the loudest stadiums I've ever played in.
Love it. What's your favorite sports movie?
Man, so favorite sports movie, honestly. All right, so football movie, probably Any Given Sunday. And then I would say basketball movie, just because like I got to put them in two different categories. Blue Chips, honestly, that was like a great movie. Like that's a classic right there. And more importantly, it's a classic because you had NBA players in that movie that like, and it was cool because you got to see the side of college basketball that like honestly like I think a lot of people didn't know about, or maybe some people did know about at the time, but like I watched it as a kid and I was like, man, it's a great movie.
What's your favorite sport to watch?
Favorite sport to watch is honestly basketball, just because I growing up on the East Coast and growing up in Boston, like basketball, that was honestly my favorite sport. Football was just the one that got me to college and I played it the longest, so to say. But I love watching basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. You know,
Are you
I
there
don't I don't keep up on the NBA during the season a lot. I'm a big watch the NBA during playoffs and during the finals and whatnot. I like college basketball, but I'm a big basketball guy.
from Boston? Are you a Bird guy or are you more of a Kevin Garnett guy when he was out there? Or what?
Yeah, Kevin Garnett for sure. Like Bird was around like when I was a kid, and honestly, like Reggie Lewis, I got a chance to see him when I was younger. Before obviously he
Yeah,
passed
yeah.
away. Like Reggie Lewis was a guy on the Celtics, but yeah, when I was younger, man, like you had Reggie Lewis, you had D Brown, you had Kevin McHale, you had a bunch of guys, and then it was good to see the Celtics have success the last couple years, especially when Doc Rivers was in town, and then the last couple years too as well. They've been able to have success. Boston is a big pro sports city, so like growing up, like I really was a college sports fan. It was like more so pro sports.
You got a book recommendation?
Anything leadership wise, I didn't want to give you guys like a just one book, but I would say like authors, like any like Jocko's books and Maxwell, like anything like leadership wise. I love reading leadership books. Strength and conditioning wise, there's a ton of books. Obviously, like Mike Boyle being one of my like guys I keep in terms of training wise, like a lot of stuff like that written. Uh, yes, there you go. I got to get that one. I got to get that one right there. Man, look at that. Where's my copy at, man?
It's on Amazon right now.
I got you. I'm gonna have to get me one, man. I'm gonna have to get me one.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. What's a superhero that you like?
Superhero that I like. Oh man. I got young kids right now, and my son loves Spider-Man, like loves Spider-Man. That's he always says about Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Growing up, like I was probably like superhero wise. Man, I ain't really had a favorite superhero, but like I know my son, like he loves Spider-Man. That's his thing. His Spider-Man. He has Spider-Man comforters, Spider-Man pajamas, Spider-Man, everything Spider-Man.
Yeah, my son loves him too, and he's in his 20s. Who's a bad guy in anything that you like? Some people say Darth Vader. I always say Hannibal
Yeah,
Lecter.
yeah. So
But some people say this Dick Butkus on the field is a bad guy, but they liked him too.
yeah, nah, a bad guy that I like. I would say Darth Vader, yeah, that one comes to mind, like watching Star Wars, that in terms of his character portrayed. The other day we watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you had Shredder on there. And I was like, I
Oh,
totally
yeah,
forgot about Shredder being a bad guy.
liked him too. What's your favorite lift?
For me, man, I love the sprint. At the end of the day, like if I didn't like
Yeah,
if I don't need nothing. I don't need a barbell to sprint. I could just go out and sprint. So like
that's true.
I can go out and sprint. Like I feel like at the end of the day, like that's one thing that people as they get older, they may still lift weights and do resistance training and whatnot, but not a lot of people sprint as they get older. So like just going out and running and sprinting and is one thing. That's the first thing that God takes from you is your ability,
Be
your
fast.
twitchiness, your speed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like he may not take your strength away, but your ability to be twitchy and be explosive and be fast, that gets taken real quick if you don't use
When I was about 14, he took it away.
it.
You got a quote for us?
Do unto others as you want to do unto you. That's not a quote, but that's just one of the rules in the good book. So treat people the way you want to be treated and good things will happen. That's how I kind of live my life. And then it's one of those things where that was instilled in me through my parents. And I'm fortunate enough that I've been around good people, had good coaches, had a lot of aunts and uncles that helped mold me into the man that I am today. But at the end of the day, it's always do unto others as you want done unto you.
Where can people find you?
People can find me
online?
on social media. I'm not really a big social media guy, I'll be honest with you, but at the end, it's kind of my wife will post stuff and then she'll just tag me in and whatnot. But like coach underscore M King on Twitter and Instagram.
Gotcha. Who's another athlete or coach you think we should have on the show? You want to get us on the show and be like, hey,
Oh
this
yeah,
guy's
no, I got one
a
for. I don't know
badass.
if Bynum. Yeah, I don't know if Bynum told you, but Tim Hicks, man, his assistant out there, he worked with us at UConn as well. And Hicks is a guy that he's you want to talk about a speed guru? Like he's a speed guru. That's his thing. Sprint work, any type of sprint mechanic, big track guy. But like in terms of energy, in terms of who he is as a man, like I think he would be a great guy to have on. He's a guy that I was fortunate enough to spend time with and work with for a couple years, and I know Bynum's got him out there and at Colorado State with him now, and I would think he would be a great guy to have on the show.
Beautiful. And for those that want to get a hold of us, or you want to get a hold of Matt, keep emailing me. I'll forward your emails on to our guests. It's info@athlete-builder.com, and check out our website where we have the Athlete Builder Scorecard, where it is exhaustive, comprehensive measuring tool to see why your athlete or your team is plateauing and what's holding them back with their limiting factor. Matt, loved having you on the show. Big shout out to Shelton. Been a cool dude to have on, and then hooked me up with you. Great time, a lot of energy. I knew that'd be the case. I was excited about this. I'm sadly, a big Cleveland Browns fan, born and raised in Cleveland, so it's been no fun at all. And I'm 51. But now that I know a guy on the Cardinals, I'll be looking on the sidelines and I'll be like, hey, I know that guy. I know him.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be looking for the Cardinals this year, my wife and me, when we're watching games. And just want to thank you for taking the time to make a difference and make an impact and help our people on the show to get better. So it was great having you on, Matt. Thank you.
For sure. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Before we wrap, one quick thing for the gym owners listening. This month, I'm opening up the Founding 6. Here's the deal. I'm taking 6 private strength and performance facilities and installing the full Athlete Builder operating system. The same system, the same standards, the same playbook we talk about on this show at Founding member pricing. 6 gyms, that's it. This isn't a menu of options. It's one system done right for owners who want to build champions and run a business that actually works. If that's you, if you own a facility and you're tired of guessing, email me at Jim, Jim, at athlete-builder.com with the words Founding 6 in the subject line. And let's talk before the spots are gone. All right, back at it. Go out there and attack the week. Win the day. Stay relentless.